Today we're going to review our lesson 18. It says divide unit fractions in word problems. The example says Eva and her two brothers, Bo and Sam, have half an hour to play on the computer and want to share the time equally. What fraction of an hour will they each have on the computer? Eva, Bo, and Sam will each get a third of the half an hour. You can represent this with a division expression or a multiplication expression. So we know we have a half divided by a third, or we can say a third times 1/2. So for number one, it says you divide to find either the number of groups or quantity in each group. So it's asking us which of those are you trying to find in the example problem. And we need to explain. So here in this equation, before, remember, it was asking us the amount of time that each of the brothers as well as Eva would have on the computer. So we're trying to find out the amount of time, which means we're trying to find the quantity. We want to find the quantity. So for my answer, I could say quantity in groups. I can explain that I would explain that you want to know the amount of time each person will have on the computer, which means you want to find a quantity. Here it says, suppose only Eva and Bo share a half an hour on the computer time. So it says write the multiplication equation that you can use to solve 1/2 of 2. So that's the same as me asking what is 1/2 times 1/2, which would equal 1/4. Our next page has a question that says 5th grade students are selling popcorn at a school festival. Pairs of students work in third hour shifts. It says complete the steps to find how many shifts there are in 3 hours. So first it says, for A, it says to solve 3 divided by 1/3, you need to find the number of thirds in 3 hours. The circle represents 1 hour. All right, so it says divide it to show the number of thirds in 1 hour. So if this is representing only 1 hour, I already know that I need 3 of these. But first it's asking me to divide it into thirds. So I can say, I can let that be 1 set of my thirds. But because I have 3 hours, I'm going to go ahead and do this 3 times. So now I see my total number of portions. So now it says B, how many thirds are in 3 hours? So this is hour 1, this is hour 2, and this is hour 3. So for each hour I have 3. Well, I'm sorry. I can say that's going to be 3 also. And then I can add them. So that's 3, that's 3, that's 3. So I have a total of, in the 3 hours, I have a total of 9 thirds. Now it says complete the division and multiplication equation for these problems. So we know 3 times 3 is 9. And we know that 3 divided by 1/3 is 9. So how many 1/3 hour shifts are in 3 hours? We saw that we have 9 shifts. So number 4 says, in problem 3, did you divide to find the number of groups or the quantity in each group? Here we wanted to see, remember we already broke each of them into how many groups of threes, how many groups we have, right? So we were trying to see the number of groups, which is what we were adding here. We got 3 groups, 3 groups, 3 groups. We got a total of 9 groups here. All right. Next, we are number 5 here, it says each lap around the track at Emma's high school is a fourth of a mile. The question says, how many laps will Emma need to jog if she wants to jog 3 miles? So it says, show how you can use multiplication to find 3 divided by 1/4. So to use multiplication, I know I could just keep my 3 the same, change my division to a multiplication and get the reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4 over 1, which is the same as 4. So that's 3 times 4, which would equal 12, which is the same as the 12 laps. If I wanted to use a model to help me solve this answer, I can use a number line. So I could break my number line starting from 0. I could divide it by 4s. So this is 0. That's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. That's 1. That's 1 1/4, 1 2/4, 1 3/4. That's 2. 2 1/4, 2 2/4, 2 3/4, and that'll be 3 wholes. I can count how many I have. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 there. So that's 12 as our answer shows. Next question says, Felicia makes a half a gallon of fruit punch. She pours an equal amount into 8 glasses. What fraction of a gallon of fruit punch is in each glass? So she would divide it by doing our half divided by 8. The half is what she had in a gallon, and she divided it by the 8 glasses. So number 1 says, what multiplication equation could you write to solve the example problem? Here we have our 1/2 already divided by 8. I know I can get the reciprocal of my 8 and get 1/8. So I could have 1/2 times 1/8, which equals 1/16. Question 2 says, suppose Felicia had made 1/4 of a gallon of punch and poured an equal amount into 8 glasses. Will the amount in each glass be more or less than 1/16 of a gallon? Explain how the model in the example problem would change to show. So first, I would say, I know my answer would be less. I know it'll be less. First, I would explain that in my equation here, they first broke the gallon into a half, which is what we have here, and then broke the half into 8s. If I were to start with a 1/4, that means it would be a smaller portion. That means my portion would actually start with about half of this. That would be a 1/4, because if I drew another line, now we see that my gallon is broken into 4s, which means I will only have this small portion here, and it will be divided. So this would be less than the half. So I know it'll be less. And to answer why it would be less, I could explain that the model will be divided into 4. Instead of halves. Next question says, Donald buys a 1/4 of a pound package of cheese There are 8 slices of cheese in each package. Each slice has the same weight. What fraction of the pound is each slice? To solve this problem, I could change this from a division problem to a multiplication. To do that, I will start with 1/4. Being divided by 8. And I'd say that's the same as my 1/4 being multiplied by 1/8. And I would know that this answer would be 1/32 pounds of a pound. So for number 4, it says students volunteers are getting ready to hand out programs at a talent show. Leah and Thomas are each given a half of a stack of the programs to hand out. Leah divides her half equally amongst herself and 2 friends. What fraction of the original stack of programs do Leah and her friends each have? So first, you want to start with the original stack that she was given, which was our half. With her half, it was divided. Her half of a stack that she was given was divided amongst 3 friends. And we know that is the same as her half of a stack that she was given being multiplied by 1/3. We know this would be the same as our answer, which is 1/6 of the original stack. Question 5 says, look at problem 4. If Thomas divided his stack of programs between himself and his 3 friends, what fraction of the original stack will each of his friends get? Therefore, we will start with his half of stack he got, and we will divide it amongst he and his 3 friends, which will make 4 of them. We know that is the same as our 1/2 of the stack being multiplied by 1/4. And our answer would be 1/8 of the original stack. Next example says Darius walks dogs at an animal shelter. He walks each dog for 1/5 of an hour. How many dog walks can he do in 2 hours? So we're going to find 2 being divided by 1/5. All right, so it says, what multiplication equation could you write to solve the example problem? So first, if we already have 2 being divided by 1/5, remember we keep our first digit the same, which is our 2. We change our division to a multiplication, and we get the reciprocal of our next number or fraction, which is 1/5. The reciprocal of 1/5 would be 5/1, which is the same as 5. We know 2 times 5 would be 10. Next it says, use the information from the example problem. In 1 month, Darius spends 10 hours walking dogs. How many dog walks does he do in 1 month? So that would be the same as me doing, if before we saw that he could do. Here for question 2, as we see that he's able to walk 10 dogs in 2 hours, we can use that same ratio and see that for 10 hours, he will be able to walk 50 dogs. Because we would just multiply each by 10. Because we multiplied our 2 hours by 5 and got 10 hours, we would multiply 10 dogs by 5 and get 50 dogs walked. So for here, we would have 50. He has 50 dog walks he's able to do.